right. Good evening, everyone. I am Austin Madison. All right. Okay, so I'm going to talk today a little bit about brainstorming. So I understand that I have a very diverse audience. Some are filmmakers, some are journalists. Do we have any animation students? Just so I can get a feeling. Nobody is interested in animation. Nobody's heard of it? That's good. Okay, we have animation students. How about journalism students or teachers? Journalism? Apparently I've been lied to. There's no journalism. Biology. We have a couple of biologists. I'll try to skew that direction then. The species you saw there was a Tyrannosaurus, indigenous of North America in the late Cretaceous. All right, so to start out, what we do at Pixar to get our brains warmed up is we like to play games. So I actually need a few volunteers to come up here and play a brainstorming game with me. Everyone who raised their hand, come on up. Everyone, in fact, anybody who wants to play, come on up. Everybody, line up. Line up in a row. That's enough volunteers. That's enough volunteers. At this point, you've been too slow. All right, all of these people will beat everyone who's sitting down for a job one day because you did not leap to your feet. Just remember that. This is the future. This is the past. Believe it. Believe it. I'm sorry, it's the truth. Okay, so we're going to play a game called Three Things, and this involves some audience participation. You all have to be willing to shout. So on the count of three, we're all just going to shout at the top of our lungs, okay? I'll do it first so that nobody feels weird, okay? Ah! Can everybody do that? All right, 1, 2, 3. Ah! Feels good. Feels good. And it's only a Monday. You guys are all going to go to work tomorrow going, it felt like Friday. I screamed already. I've got nothing for the rest of the week. Okay, one more time. This time, let's all scream happy. Ready? Woo-hoo! Come on, guys. The Niners just won a playoff game. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Woo-hoo! Awesome. Okay. So did the Patriots. Hey, I've got nothing but love for the Patriots. Nobody likes the Saints. I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. Just kidding. Okay, so we're going to play a game called Three Things, and this is going to get our brains working as fast as possible. And the way this works is what's your name? McKenna? Hi, McKenna. I'm Austin. I'm going to ask McKenna to list three things for me. They could be 3 types of plants, 3 places you would find tile on the floor, anything like that, and then McKenna is going to, as quick as she can, list 3 things. There's no wrong answer. If I say 3 places with tile on the floor and you say, India, that's probably true. There's probably tile on the floor somewhere in India. I've never been, but I assume that's true. Okay, and then McKenna, you will challenge Hadley, right? You will challenge Hadley with 3 things, and so on and so forth. And we will see how quickly we can get through this whole row, okay? Hopefully we can get through this in like 2 minutes. All right, so, oh, and by the way, after everybody says their third thing, we all shout 3 things, okay? So let's try that. 1, 2, 3. 3 things! Come on now. Come on now. Where's that Niners love? All right. On the count of 3, 3 things. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 3 things! Perfect, perfect. All right, so I'll start out. McKenna, why don't you go ahead and challenge me with 3 things?
3 types of animals.
3 types of animals. You got your hadrosaurs, you got your sauropods, and you got your velociraptors. 3 things! Perfect, perfect. Okay. McKenna, 3 types of drawing utensils.
Pencil, pen, crayon.
3 things! Perfect. Okay, now you challenge Hadley.
3 types of dogs.
Okay, poodle, terrier, and lab.
3 things! Perfect. Okay, then you challenge, what's your name?
Nick.
Nick?
3 different football teams.
Saints, Packers, and Niners.
3 things! Perfect.
3 types of plants.
Plants.
Grass. Roses, sunflowers.
3 things! And then
3 types of colors.
colors.
Blue, orange, and red.
3 things!
Nothing hard. Something hard, yeah. What would you find in ancient Mesopotamia?
Ooh, 3 Mesopotamian things. There's no wrong answer.
We studied this!
Dirt.
Dirt,
Trees.
Trees.
And buildings.
Buildings, 3 things. 3 Mesopotamian things. I just learned something. See, we're already spanning different subject matters. All right. Try to skew towards biology. We have some biology people here.
3 types of dinosaurs?
Dinosaurs, 3 types of dinosaur.
Velociraptor, T-Rex, and that's the same thing.
It is the same thing.
Tyrannosaurus.
Tyrannosaurus, 3 things. Oh, yeah.
3 types of superheroes.
Superheroes.
Superman, Spider-Man, and Aquaman.
3 things. Aquaman, borderline. Okay. All right. Thank you for participating. Does everybody feel that their brains are working on a higher level? Everybody's creative juices flowing? No, not really. No, that was just a deliberate waste of your time. A little bit, maybe a little bit higher. All right. So now we're gonna bring it down. I know it's challenging. We're all in play mode. But then the play has to become work at some point. So we're going to talk about, now that you're in this creative play mode, how do you get a story? How do you start brainstorming a story? Whether you're a journalist and you're trying to create a story out of documented materials, or if you're an animator and you're creating every single frame by hand, all stories are told basically the same way. What does every story start with? Once upon a time. All right. Let me know if you can't see my handwriting. It's probably bad. So we're going to call this Once There Was a. This is what every single story starts with, Once there was a cowboy doll who thought he was the very favorite toy. Once there was a farm boy who dreamed of fighting a galactic empire. This goes on and on and on. Everybody's like, I know that one. I've seen Star Trek. J.J. Abrams' Star Trek is just a remake of Star Wars, people. Just a remake, shot for shot. All right. So let's get an example. Let's say, what's a movie we want to use as an example? Has everybody seen Star Wars? That might work. Star Wars, all of them? I've seen every single Star Wars, and I've written every variation of the new Star Tours. Okay, so Star Wars. How does Star Wars start out? Once there was a what? Now, before we just start reciting the very first words in the story, stories are not about a place, right? It's not about once there was a galaxy. They're about a character, right? So when we're telling our story, the most important thing is our protagonist, right? Who can tell me what a protagonist is? Darth Vader would be the opposite, but close. Yes, right here.
The hero or the favorited character?
I could not say it better. The hero character or the favorite character, although usually the favorite's like Han Solo or some other. So the protagonist is our hero. He's the character with a goal. If you go home, watch any news story, you're following some kind of hero. Sometimes that hero is a group of people, a group of survivors, or a charity, but there's always a hero with a goal. If there's no goal, if there's no clear goal, we don't know what to root for, and suddenly we become kind of detached from the story, and it's like we're just watching a bunch of images. So for Star Wars, once there was a, who's our hero? In the red hat? Luke Skywalker. And what is he? What is Luke? He's not a Jedi. He's a farm boy. Once there was a farm boy. And what's his goal? What's Luke Skywalker's goal? How about over here? We haven't gotten anybody over here yet. Yes? Yes?
He wants to be a starfighter.
Exactly. Major points for you, because most people say he wants to be a Jedi. That's not true. He doesn't even know that that's even a possibility. He wants to be a starfighter pilot. Once there was a farm boy who wanted to be a pilot. So we have our character, we have our protagonist, we have our goal. Now, every story starts with what we call a platform. The first act, everything is in balance, right? Because then we have somewhere to go. So, this is number one. Number two is Every day. Every day he blank. So what did Luke Skywalker do every day? Over here? He what? He helped out on the farm. Yeah, every day he helped out on the farm. Now, if we rolled credits here, how much money do you think this movie would make? Millions, right? Because it's happy. Nobody wants anything like he's a happy kid and he's got everything he wants. Isn't that what we want to see? Right? No? No? What do we want to see? What do we want to see in a story? Who said conflict? Conflict? Right here. So, all right. Conflict. Who's taking notes? Who's taking notes? Everybody should be taking notes. So we got protagonist, we got goal, now we have conflict, right? Who likes graphs and charts and math? Nobody. Well, you have to learn them. You have to learn them. Even in story, there's a graph. There's a story graph. Every story, this is our intensity. Right here. So if this was an earthquake, we would see boom, 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 like that, right? This is time, right? So over the course, we're going to say this is 2 hours, right? Most films are around 2 hours long, unless you're Peter Jackson, then they go into the 5-hour range, and the DVDs are even longer. But let's just say we're talking about a 2-hour movie, and this is our intensity on a scale of 1 to 10. Here's 5, 1. Where does Star Wars start? How intense? Low? Does it? Actually, starts kind of high. Most stories do this. But action movies, James Bond, superhero movies, Star Wars, do this. Right? Can anybody guess why? How about, let's get hands. Anybody right over here?
To grab your attention?
Exactly. To grab your attention, right? You know, you've just gotten babysitters. It's the end of the week. You've put in a hard week's, worth of work. You go out to a movie theater. You spend $30 on IMAX tickets in 3D, in high frame rate. You don't want to just watch people talking, especially if you're paying for an action movie. You want to be slammed into the back of your seat. You want to see Joker doing a bank heist, shooting people up before Batman even shows up on the scene. You want your spike, right? That's how roller coasters start as well. Roller coasters usually crank you right up to the very highest drop and drop you off and get you going right away. James Bond does the same thing. Then we go back down, and then we start building character. Which is more intense, the beginning or the end of Star Wars? The end. But it's just about the same amount of action, right? We have people shooting versus people shooting in starships. Why is it more intense at the end when we see characters dying? Right over here? You want to come up here and meet me halfway here?
Because you know the characters better.
Boom! You guys don't even need this class. You should all just go home. You guys are awesome. Yeah, you are invested in the characters. In the beginning, we're literally seeing a bunch of guys in masks that are the same color as the hallway. The hallway's white. We see a bunch of people in white armor. We see a bunch of people in beige armor. It's the most boring colors possible for a reason. And we see them all shoot each other. And we're like, yeah, we're eating popcorn and it's no big deal. In the end, we're watching a bunch of guys in black armor chase a bunch of guys in orange jumpsuits through a trench. It's just 1 point perspective. And we're like, go, Luke. Go. Go, Luke. Put the thing away. Use the Force, man. Right? Because of this. This is development. Character development. Here's where we see our character's goal get challenged. How many chances does Luke Skywalker have to just walk away? In fact, we even get Han Solo is a similar character. And every chance he gets, Han Solo is just like, is there a princess in there? I don't want to save her. Luke's like, oh, come on, let's save her. What's in it for us? She's a princess, man. Come on, that's what we're supposed to do. Nope, there's money in it. Okay. So we see that Luke wants to be a hero. He wants to be a starfighter pilot. Han Solo's already been a hero. He's done it. He knows there's nothing good in it. He wants money. So we have contrasting characters. They both want the same goal, but for different reasons, right? Again, that's goal. That's motivation. All right. So once there was let's back up again. Once there was a farm boy. Every day he helped on the farm until one day. This is number 3 now. Until one day. What happens that changes Luke's whole life? I'll come down here, I'll talk to you. What does he do? What happens?
First, he meets Obi-Wan, and then he's like, I was in the Clone Wars. And second, he finds out that his aunt and uncle are dead.
Boom. Exactly. High five. Awesome. Good Alec Guinness impression as well. Until one day, his family is killed. Because first what happens is, he runs into some droids. What happens? They say, hey, can you take us to this far-off place? We have Death Star plans, and they're important, and they're secret, and it's just essential. And he's like, no, I gotta go repair that thing, and I gotta hang out at the Tachi station. Power converters. And he says no. And then Obi-Wan comes along and he goes, hey, yeah, those droids are fine, but guess what? I have a laser sword, and you have magical powers, and your father was the greatest starfighter pilot in the galaxy. You want to come along with me? No, I got the Tachi station, and I got some power converters. Nothing. Until his family is killed. What's the next thing that happens? Because of that. Because of that. Who knows South Park? You're too young to know what South Park is. There's like 3-year-olds. I know South Park. Cartman's my favorite. In South Park, the creators are Trey Parker, Matt Stone. They're brilliant. And they talk about, at work, what they do is they put a bunch of story beats on the wall. Story beats are like these sort of things like, Luke finds droids, Luke learns he's a Jedi. That's a story beat. And what they do is, if they can just say, and then, then they have no story. Luke finds droids, and then Han Solo goes to a bar, and then Princess Leia finds out that she's captured. Because then you're going all over the place. What you want is because of that. Whether it's journalism or, if you're writing a novel or a screenplay, you want your story to be compelling. You want every scene to be necessary. Every scene should have that one nugget of information that compels the next scene. So when Luke Skywalker's family is killed, what is the next thing that happens is a direct correlation to that. Anybody over here? Anybody over here? No? No? Anyone? What happens? Luke Skywalker, all right, over here.
He joins the Alliance.
He joins the Alliance. He joins the Rebel. He at least goes with Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? To escort the droids to Alderaan. He joins Obi-Wan. I think the direct thing is he says, I can take you as far as, Mos Eisley, but that's as far as I'll go. And then we could do because of that. And because of that, and because of that. Until finally. Now this is, if we were to look at that, at our chart, this is because of that, because of that, because of that, because of that. And here we have until finally, which is also known as what? What part in a story is the final thing that happens? Over here?
Climax?
The climax. That's right. Until finally, the climax. And just before this is our crisis. Crisis and climax. What is a crisis? It's the worst thing that could possibly happen to our characters. What is that in Star Wars? What's the crisis in Star Wars? Just shout it out. Anybody? What's that? Obi-Wan dies. Obi-Wan is killed. Obi-Wan's kaput. We have Alec Guinness. He's so wise. Everything's fine as long as we have Obi-Wan. But he's kaput. It's no good. Obi-Wan's dead. We learned that they let the rebels go so that they could be followed to their base. So they just fail on every account. And then they find themselves with the Death Star breathing down their neck and coming around, and it's going to blow up Yavin 4, right? So then we come to our climax. So what was the original goal of our character? What did the farm boy want to be? A starfighter pilot. Until finally, what does he become? Until finally, Luke becomes a starfighter pilot and saves the day. But he doesn't just save the day as a pilot, because there's plenty of other pilots. What else has he learned about himself? He's a Jedi, right? He's special. And he saves the day not as a pilot, but as a Jedi, right? And then we roll credits. And we have 7 more movies, and it's great. So you guys want to do this with one more movie now that we know what we're doing here? All right. Okay. Once there was, and after this, we'll take a little break. Once there was every day he, what's the next one? So it's once there was every day he, and then what's the third thing? Until one day. And then what? Because of that. You guys are sharp. Because of that. And then we could do 1 because of that, 2 because of that, 3, until finally. And I left one out. Ever since then. And ever since then is really our most important, because that's the reason we tell the story, right? You know, Luke Skywalker saved the day. Okay, that's nothing. But ever since then, he has been on the path to be a Jedi Knight. And that's where the next 2 movies go. It's very little about him being a pilot and much more about him discovering who his father is and all that. So that's the moral of our story. So do you guys hear The Hobbit? Somebody say that? Did everybody see The Hobbit? No spoiler alerts? It's a book. You already should have read it. We're going through The Hobbit, brother. All right. Once there was a what? The clue is in the title. Once there was a Hobbit named Bilbo. Bilbo Baggins. Spock sang songs about him. All right. Every day he what? He smoked it. This character doesn't have much to do. Every day he smoked his pipe. Don't smoke, kids. It'll stunt your growth, obviously. Literally all we know about Bilbo is that he actually was a very comfortable hobbit. He liked, his food and telling stories until one day Gandalf came and invited him on an adventure. Gandalf forcefully invited him on an adventure. What else? What's the first story beat that actually happens in the movie? Good try. Over here.
He was attacked by 3 trolls.
He was attacked by 3 trolls. Yes, because of that, Gandalf invites him on an adventure, and he's attacked by 3 trolls. Now, do you think Bilbo would have agreed to go on the adventure if he knew that trolls were involved? No, this is called a story turn. Because of that, he's attacked by trolls. Now, if I was to draw that chart again, it would start out with, what's the first thing that happens in The Hobbit? Really nothing, right? It's just Bilbo sucking on his pipe. So what does Peter Jackson do? He goes, all right, 100 years ago there was a dragon. Boom! And then you get your huge spike in the beginning and everybody's happy and they're eating popcorn. Then we start the real story with Bilbo. And he gets attacked by trolls. Then what happens? After the trolls, do orcs just like pile on him or what?
He falls into a cave.
He falls into a cave, but doesn't he they find weapons, so it's relieving. And then he gets attacked by orcs, and then he escapes. And then he gets attacked by Gollum, and he escapes again. And finally, they're attacked by orcs, but now there's trees on fire, and there's a cliff, and there's wolves. And then eagles save them, because eagles always save everyone in Lord of the Rings. But you see how this is every story beat is getting more and more intense, right? So if I was to zoom in on my chart, any individual scene has the same structure, right? Every scene has a beginning, middle, and end. So whether you're editing a feature film, or if you're just helping a friend and you're editing a scene, you're always looking for that beginning, middle, and end, right? The conflict, the climax, and the resolution. Do you have a question back here? Where would the riddles fit in? That would be, so right before the orcs and everything, he has his riddles with Gollum. Which, this is an important moment for the character why. Why is the riddles with Gollum different than every other conflict that Bilbo has? Over here?
It's part of his past. He used his prior knowledge, not all the fighting.
Yep, he actually uses his skill set. Yeah, he outsmarts Gollum rather than attacking like the dwarves would do. What else?
What he gains from the cave when after coming throughout the thing.
Oh yes, he gains the ring, which is huge, right? Is that what you mean? Yeah. He gains the ring. We know in the next 3 movies that's going to be colossal. And if anybody knows their Tolkien, well, the first time he was writing the original book, he didn't even know that was going to be huge. He's just writing along. He's like, and then he finds, I got to make this worthwhile for the character. He finds a golden ring. We'll figure out what that does later. Oh, it makes him invisible. And then later on, as he wrote a whole trilogy about the One Ring, he had to actually go back and say, ooh, maybe I should make Gollum more threatening. And so then he added the whole thing where Gollum says, hey, if you lose the game, I eat you. Which is not usually how a riddle game is played. Unless you're in Detroit. All right. So because of that, he's attacked by trolls. He riddles with Gollum. They're attacked by orcs. Until finally what? What's the last thing that happens? And does anybody want Bilbo on this adventure other than Gandalf? No. No. Can you imagine if your car was stolen and I invite this 3-foot little dandy? I'll help you find your car. All right, well, it's in that really rough neighborhood. Fantastic. No, nobody wants that. You want to call the cops. You want somebody with actual skills. But because he helps them with Gollum, he helps them with the orcs, what do we have at the end?
He gains the trust of the lead dwarf.
He gains the trust. He gains Thorin's trust. And more importantly, he becomes an adventurer. He gains his own sense of confidence, right? You always have your external goals and your internal goals. And Bilbo didn't even know that he had it in him, but he gets through all this stuff, and in the end, he has the opportunity to turn back, right? Just like Luke Skywalker. They give him that scene where he's got a ring that turns him invisible. All the dwarves are like, he's gone, we don't even like him. We're glad that he's gone. He never should have come. Any one of us would be like, great, peace, you guys are doing just fine, I'm out. But Bilbo's like, you know what, these guys, they know how to drink. They got me into Rivendell, that was pretty fun. And I have a home to go to and they don't have a home. You know, which cuts down to every single person can relate to that. And that's what storytelling is, right? It's the great unifier. So ever since then, well, we have 2 more movies, but basically, ever since then, he's been going on adventures and helping the dwarves, right? Ever since then, he doesn't stay at home smoking pipes, he goes on adventures. All right, what do you say we take a little break, and when we come back, we write our own story, and then we divide into groups and start storyboarding. All right, so we're going to start our own story now. And what is the hero of a story called? Protagonist. So we're going to create a protagonist. That is step 1. So we can create any protagonist in the world. It could be a walking leopard with a potato head. It could be a door with measles. It could be anything. What do you guys want to tell a story about tonight? A squirrel. Any other ideas?
A cockroach.
Cockroach.
Greyhound.
A greyhound. What's that?
Cop with short-term memory loss.
A cop with short-term memory loss. That sounds pretty compelling. Who wants to do a story about a cop with short-term memory loss? Who wants to do a story about a cop with short-term memory loss? Who wants to do a story about a cop? No, just kidding. You see? Once there was a cop with short-term memory loss. Now, because we're creating our own story, we have to design the character as we're doing the story. So, let's just have this table decide, is our character tall or short? On the count of three, just shout it out. 1, 2, 3. Short! Everybody wants a short guy. All right. All right. Is he fat or skinny or muscular? You have three choices. 1, 2, 3. Fat! She's short, fat. All right. Maybe I'm only catching the monosyllabic word. Okay. Short, fat. What else, Sean? What other physical attributes? Allergies. The face? All right. This guy, is he handsome or is he ugly? I can guess what we're going to say here. Handsome. Oh, handsome. I would have put money on ugly. Short, fat, and handsome. Are you guys describing me? All right. Is he, what else, Sean? Is he, okay, is he an undercover cop or does he wear a uniform? So go undercover or uniform. 1, 2, 3. Uniform. You have to be, no one else. This is a team project. We're all going to get an email sent out to the company shortly, but we're going to have a brainstorm with just this table, okay? Undercover or uniform? 1, 2, 3.
Undercover.
I heard uniform. All right, uniformed, short, fat, handsome. What else, Sean? What else do we need? Personality traits. Is he happy? Or is he funny or is he serious? Is this a drama or a comedy? So just say drama or comedy. 1, 2, 3. Comedy! Comedy, of course, it's comedy. All right, and then this group gets to decide the most important thing of all. Does he use weapons or not? Say yes for weapons, no for not. 1, 2, 3. Yes! Of course he does. All right, so we have a short, fat cop. He's got weapons, he's got a billy club, he's got his gun, he's got ninja stars. He's funny, so he's like, I got weapons. I got weapons.
Like a teacher.
He's built like a teacher, essentially. That's. But he's handsome. That's right. He's our handsome cop. All right, so this is your creation. This is mine. All right. And he's got his. Does he have awards? Yes or no? Does he have awards? Yes. If he has awards, where do we have to go? Yes? If we have awards, what story do we have to tell, right? He's got short-term memory loss, right? You guys still want to stick with the awards? Maybe it's a sequel. No? Who says no? Who says yes? All right, you guys want awards. You're the brain trust. So the good thing about having awards is what? Where does that mean our character can go? If he starts up high, he can lose it all. He can lose it all. All right. So he's a celebrated cop. So once there was a cop with short-term memory loss, an overweight problem, weapons, awards, and a handsome face. Every day, he what? What does this cop do every day of his life? Right here, I see a young enthusiastic man.
Ate a donut with coffee.
Every day, he'd eat his donut with his coffee. Perfect. Okay, let me tell you one thing about stereotypes. In this business, stereotypes are good. All right? A lot of people, stereotypes are bad. No, stereotypes are a good place to start from because they give your whole audience, all right, we get that character, and then you challenge them. And then you create a unique character. So this is good. We have a charismatic cop. Every day he ate donuts, drank coffee. Now, who wants to think like an animator? All right. Nobody wants to think like an animator over here? You guys are losers. All right. So when an animator hears he eats donuts and drinks coffee, he thinks, well, what kind of donuts? What kind of donuts does this guy eat? I need to know the specifics. Right here in the pink? pink ones. All right. Okay, he likes pink ones. I like the pink donuts. He ate pink donuts with sprinkles. Now, is this guy... So, okay, let's challenge this. In the first scene, he's sitting there. He can't remember if he's already had a donut or not, so he calls for one. Somebody brings in a donut, and it's not pink. How does he react? Let's just get one person. All right, how about you? How does he react? You just ate something. How about you? How does he react?
He gets all upset.
He gets upset. And suddenly, he's not so funny anymore. Okay? Until one day, someone brought him a donut that wasn't pink and had no sprinkles. That's as simple as you need to get with your conflict, right? Because he's got a pretty boring life, right? Until one day, someone brought in the wrong donut. And that's the title of our film, The Wrong Donut. I can feel the lawsuits rolling in. We're all going to get arrested. All right, everybody. Does everybody have paper, pencils, brains? Okay. The brains is probably the most important because it helps you breathe. I want you guys to come up with one storyboard for each because of that. And you guys can have as many because of that's as you want and be like Peter Jackson, or you can have one because of that and be like a cool Super Bowl commercial and get straight to the point. And after all of the because of that, what comes after because of that? Because of that, because of that, because of that?
Pepper spray.
No, what comes after, like in our formula? Don't ruin the ending. These people are competing with you. Until finally, I heard until finally. Until finally. Finally. And then what's the most important part of a story is the last part. Ever since then. So just get in groups of 5, and you're going to be creating these storyboards. One storyboard for each because of that. And they don't have to be beautiful. That's the great thing about storyboards. Nobody's going to see this because professional animators or actual live action actors are going to acting this. So stick figures are perfect as long as they illustrate each because of that. One until finally, and then an ever since then. And just in case you needed a really crappy starting off point, here's my character design of the character. So everybody ready? And then I'll be going around and we'll pick one group to pitch to the entire cafeteria. All right? All right, go.
His donut, because the way he bangs on it, his donut flies and sticks to the ceiling.
Okay.
So are we now to do more because of that all the way down the line?
Yes. As many, I would challenge yourself to keep it to like 3. And think in broad terms like Die Hard. He's getting the upper hand. He's killing most of the terrorists. Because of that, they shoot the glass. Now he has no place to walk. Because of that, he has to walk across the glass. And it's a one-on-one now with the final villain. Because of that, Alan Rickman has to take a hostage. You go really broad brushstrokes. It doesn't have to be every beat in the scene. Think of it like if it was a children's book, what would the illustrations be? And that's perfect. That totally illustrates it. You can be an arrow. Perfect.
So we're basing it on the fact that he got a donut that he didn't like, right?
Yep.
So that's where we tell the story. So you guys have to understand.
And if you're stuck, you can always jump ahead and go, where do we want to end this? We want to end it with the, and ever since then, he doesn't eat donuts anymore. He eats lean chicken, and he's a fit officer. And then you go, okay, well, how do we get there? It's like looking at the answer on the front of a puzzle, and then going through and trying to get each piece, right? So good luck. Not really? Doing good? I see we're writing out the story beats.
We're doing this right.
What's that?
Supposed to draw it?
Yes. Eventually, each one of these is going to be a drawing. So think in terms of what are the most important story points, and then somebody who's the best drawer here.
You.
You guys are probably better than I am. But
Stick.
or more importantly, who's the fastest drawer, and just get somebody that could be really rough, stick figures.
You can draw, huh?
Yeah. Go for it. So start drawing as someone else is writing. This is exactly how it works at work. They're always like, oh, those script pages are done. Here, start drawing. We're going to rewrite the script. Okay. So just go for it.
Later, got it.
Exactly. I think the one beat you're missing is, because it seems like he starts off in the police station, right? And he's just been giving his donut. He's been given his donut, right? They're just going around passing out the donuts. So maybe it's. Is he in the donut shop? Oh, okay. Because that could be a good place to have a little bit of a journey. That if he starts at the police station, he's like, I don't remember why I only eat the pink donuts. So maybe he wanders off to the donut shop. That way, there's a reason that the burglar doesn't see the cop because he's already robbing it, and the guy kind of wanders in, and maybe he sees. Maybe it's not the pink donut that reminds him, maybe it's another donut. He's like, when he sees it, it jogs his memory, right? So that way you have a journey, and it's not just that everything's happening in the same spot, right? You're always looking for ways, remember the escalation? You always want, and if everything's happening in the same spot, then it's kind of a scene more than a story, right? But I mean, it's a good idea. It's just like getting those extra little tweaks in there to help it progress, right?
Yes, so one of the cops when they're passing out donuts, he has to have a pink one, and when they ask him why, he goes, he knows he goes to donut shop.
Right. Sound good? Awesome. Keep going, guys. All right, who came up with a story they were relatively happy with? Who just had fun? Who just had a good time? Woo! Come on, where's the Niners love? Woo! Ow! Awesome. All right, everybody. Why don't you guys all come down? Can everybody see this? If everybody can see us, we don't have to come down. Ish? Kind of see it a little bit? Okay. All right, this is a story basically, roughly based on this group's, although theirs is much more creative. I did not have the time to draw everything in their story, but this is my version. All right, so once there was a cop with short-term memory loss. Every day he'd eat pink sprinkled donuts and drink coffee until one day someone brought him a donut that wasn't pink. And because of that, he erupted in a tantrum, flinging donuts all over the place. I will not eat these donuts. This is unacceptable. And he actually started to punch the donut baker. Because of this, he was fired from the police force. Get out. You are dishonorably discharged. Because of that, unfortunately, he forgot he was discharged and tried to get donuts again. But nobody would give him donuts because he was already known as a donut baker beater-upper. And because of that, he was all alone and was unable to eat donuts. But he met a girl who ran a juice stand. And because of that, she gave him juice, which he discovered that he liked much more than donuts. And he learned that he didn't actually have a lack of memories. It's just that he had no one to make memories with. And because of that, they made memories together. And the juice, being much healthier than donuts, made him the greatest cop ever. He was welcomed back into the force with open arms. And because of that, he protects all donut bakers from anyone who would ever beat them up. The end. All right. All right, thank you so much for the inspiring story, you guys. You guys did an awesome job. A lot of really cool ideas. We'll open it up to a Q&A now for next few minutes. So if anybody has any questions.
So what made you want to start animation, and what did you do when you decided you wanted to start? Like, how did you start out?
Okay, so the question was, what made me want to decide to be an animator, and what did I do once I decided? I've been very lucky in that I don't have many skills. I can basically just draw. So I just kind of followed that one skill as far as it would take me. And I was fortunate enough to have an awesome teacher, Sean Sullivan, who you saw earlier in high school, and he helped me to start creating films. And if anybody wants to be a filmmaker, I would suggest they start making films. That's the best way to get good at it. And the same is if you want to be a journalist, start covering stories, start telling stories. If there's anything you want to be good at, there's no trick to it. You just have to do it as often as you can. And ideally find a good teacher to help critique you. Does that answer your question? Yep. Awesome. Thanks.
Next up.
Nice to meet you. Nick.
My name is Tyler, and did you work on Monsters, Inc.?
Hi, Tyler. Okay, so I didn't work on the first Monsters, Inc. I actually started at Pixar on Ratatouille. But I did work on the upcoming sequel, Monsters University. and I'm currently writing and storyboarding a short that's going to be on the Monsters, Inc. DVD. It's going to be called Party Central, where all the characters throw a crazy college party. So it's going to be crazy. So, all right. Thank you very much, Tyler.
Hi, my name is Michelle, and how did you get the idea of writing Brave?
Hi, Michelle. So Brave was written by Brenda Chapman, and that story was originally about her and her mom, and also about her and her daughter. She could relate both to Merida and Eleanor as a mom and as a daughter, so it was kind of her way of working out. Like, I'm sure every mother and daughter knows that there's that special relationship that fathers and sons don't quite have, but that mothers and daughters have, and how that's unique. And so, because there's a lot of boys at Pixar, we keep making boy main characters, and Brenda was like, hey, wait a second, like, girls have a story to tell too, and girls can be just as adventurous as guys. So that was kind of her story that she wrote, and was directed by her and Mark Andrews. The storyboarding process usually takes like the first year, 2 years. On Brave, it took up to 4 years. So it just depends on how hard the story is to crack. But usually, whatever length of time your film takes, story is a good half of it. And then animation is a smaller chunk, and then rendering and all that down the line. Cool, thanks. Nice to meet you, man.
Hi, my name is Helen. Was it hard to make Brave?
Brave was so hard to make. Brave was so hard to make that at first everybody was actually kind of depressed. Did anybody out there run into that area where you're like, I don't know what to do next with this story? Imagine that for years. And so like literally come to work and I don't know. She's good at the bow and arrow thing. Then what? Her mom's, well, I don't want to ruin it, but the mom's a bear, you know? So we had that a lot, you know, like didn't know what to do. So as a group of us were hired on, we decided that the best thing to do would be to jump back to, remember that time when we were being silly in the very beginning and just shouting and screaming? We decided that's exactly what Pixar needed. So we went out, and does anybody know what a kilt is? It's basically a skirt for men. We all went out and we bought kilts. We didn't tell anyone at work. We're just like, let's buy kilts. There was a couple dozen of us. Let's get swords and spears, and let's get a bagpiper. Let's paint our faces. So we did all that, and there were, I remember it was morning, and Mark Andrews was in a very quiet theater, and he was very seriously critiquing some animation. And then the door burst open, and bagpiping music, which if you ever heard it, sounds like a dying goat. Bagpiping music filled the theater, and we marched in with swords and spears, and we started chanting, and we got to the front of the theater and said, I hear you got a film to make. We're here to help you. And immediately they were like, how can we not win? We have all these guys on our side. So from then on, because of that, every Friday, we became Kilt Friday. Everybody would wear kilts. And because we were now in the mindset of the character, we're like, of course we know what has to happen. She has to run into this witch. And maybe the witch isn't home, so she has to learn how to forgive her mom on her own. And it became the second wave of, you know, creative inspiration. So I forget what the question was at this point.
It's a great answer.
It was extremely hard. But when the going gets tough, you know, it's time to start playing again and to have fun. And if you're not having fun, you're probably not creating art. You're probably doing math or something else. So it's important to always be having, not that math isn't fun, as the chart implied. But yeah, it's very hard, but that's what makes it so worth it. So the color design is like a whole department full of artists. And they go through the whole film and they design, for Brave in particular, the reason everybody's a redhead is number one, because that's a very Scottish thing. We associate Scots with, you know, this bright red hair. But also because we wanted her, you know, if you look at everything's gray and green and very muted, and if you ever go to Scotland, which we did to research, it's very important to research whatever you're working on, we saw everything was this really muted tone, very like ghostly and cool and, you know, melancholy and gothic. So we decided all the main characters have to have bright red hair just so that there's something to look at on the screen, and it also feels rebellious and it feels energetic. So those are the sort of decisions how we make on what color things are going to be. Does that make sense? Awesome. Nice to meet you, man. Michael, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming.
Hi, my name's Joel.
Hey, Joel.
How many animation Pixar movies have you made?
I have worked on 7 animated movies so far, and then Monsters University will be the 8th. So, and then a short film, La Luna. Did anybody see La Luna? Yeah? That was so fun. That was like a ridiculous amount of fun to work on. Yeah, it just gave us an excuse to eat a lot of Italian food, to research for the characters. So yeah, 7 movies. Yeah, awesome. Thanks for your question.
What was the clinking sound on the stars dropping on La Luna?
That's a good question. Actually, I don't know. I know that they wanted them to feel glass, obviously, so that you can foreshadow that they might break open, and that only the main character would kind of see that. In fact, anytime a shimmer goes through a star, especially the big star, you see little subtle hints that it's made up of little stars. You never want to completely surprise an audience. You want to give them that hint that the second time they watch it of like, oh, the answer was right there. Just like a good riddle, you should be able to guess what's going on if you think really hard. So, yeah, good question. Thanks. Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Sophie. I
Hi,
was
Sophie.
wondering what was your favorite movie you worked on?
My favorite movie to work on was definitely Brave, because we just had so much fun getting into character, and our director, Mark Andrews, every Tuesday and Thursday, we would start at 7 a.m. by sword fighting. And Mark would get into full armor, and I would get into full armor, and we would bring out the big broadswords, and we would wail on each other. And it was kind of, if anybody has a boss out there, you know what I'm talking about, where you just have to kind of like, I disagree with what you're saying. Imagine disagreeing with heavy steel. It's amazing. It's such a good, it makes the whole rest of the day much easier. Whatever you say, boss, I'll do whatever you need me to do, but I'll see you outside tomorrow. So that was definitely the most fun. The first movie I made with Pixar was Ratatouille, which was directed by my hero, Brad Bird, which was just an amazing experience. Imagine if your favorite musician was Kelly Clarkson, and your first job as a dancer is to dance on the Kelly Clarkson music video, and that's kind of what it was like. That's halfway as awesome as working with Brad Bird. I was actually a character in Brave. Like I said, we did a lot of sword fighting with the director, so you'll see that there's a scene where the king, Fergus, is sparring. He's sword fighting with a couple buddies, and one guy like swings at his wooden leg and gets his sword stuck, and then Fergus throws the guy against a weapon rack. That's me. I'm the guy. So we choreographed that. We choreographed this whole fight. Our director, Mark, played King Fergus, and as we're sword fighting, I was like, hey, Mark, your leg's open. I would totally chop that wooden leg in half. And he's like, surprise, Madison, it's an oak leg. Your sword is stuck. I throw you now. I'm like, oh, awesome. And so like, okay, this is so great. And I had a friend who was in charge of all the crowd characters, all the extra characters. And this guy, Paul, was like, awesome, we're going to pick the character that looks most like you so everybody will know it's you. Awesome. I see the movie. It's a 60-year-old man with gray hair. I'm like, that could be me in 60 years. Awesome. So yes, if you watch Brave and if you see an old man get thrown against a weapons rack, that's me. But thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
How difficult on average is like writing a storyboard for a movie?
On average, a 10 out of 10 difficulty. It's like I say, every film was a different challenge. But for example, the short I'm working on right now is supposed to take place in college at a fraternity, and it's supposed to be rated G. If you know anything about college or fraternities, there's not a lot of G-rated material that goes on, so you have to be really creative in how you mind the comedy about it. So very, very challenging, but it's always very fun. That's the important thing. So, yeah. Sure. Okay, so the question was, how long did it take to animate Ratatouille, and would I be willing to draw the character? So I can draw the character for you afterwards. I'll answer the question for you now. So every film usually is in animation for like 2 years, and the first year is just designing the characters and testing them, and we find out how they need to be animated. And then the second part is doing the actual animation. And with Ratatouille, we found out, we originally had the character walking around on 2 feet the whole time, and we thought, well, are all the rats going to be walking around on 2 feet, and isn't that kind of weird? And are they really supposed to be like rats, or are they kind of like Looney Tunes rats? So we decided, no, these should be really rats. They should be on all 4 feet, and only Remy, as the film goes on, starts walking on 2 feet because he cooks and he can't have sewer on his hand, as you know if you've worked a kitchen or eaten any food ever. It's not good to have sewer on your hands. So that's his character progression. You know that chart I was drawing for you, that's his development, is that he becomes more and more and more like a person. So by the time he goes back to the sewer, if you watch the sewer scene, everyone else is around on all 4s and he's walking around on 2. The question is, how have Pixar and RenderMan affected technology? And I would say the answer is that we have certainly pushed like the entertainment field to have better and better special effects, and hopefully, more importantly than pushing the technology, push people to be telling better stories and to be more imaginative and to be thinking about stories that aren't just the same run-of-the-mill story over and over. The question is, how many years of improvement did it take to make RenderMan what it is right now? So Pixar has been around for 25 years, and I would say it's taken 25 of those 25 years to make it as good as it is, because we are always improving the software all the time. And you could just take a look at the films. I think on Incredibles, things probably got as good, as beautiful as, that was probably the high watermark. So I don't know, that would be like maybe 15 of the 25 years to get to that mark. So yeah, absolutely. John Lasseter and Ed Catmull are awesome. I had a brainstorming session with John on our little short film that we worked on, the Monsters short, and he is just ridiculously full of energy and ideas. If you ever poured milk into a cereal bowl until the milk is just overflowing and there's just Kellogg's Frosted Flakes all over the ground, that's like him, but the Frosted Flakes are genius ideas. That's how I would describe John Lasseter. So yeah, he's just really fun to work with, and he's really open to everybody else's ideas, which is a good lesson. When you're working with other people, it's important to stay open to ideas, because if it's just your ideas all the time, nobody's going to want to work with you. But everybody wants to work with John because he's super generous. Okay, the first question is, what was the most frustrating part about making Ratatouille? And I would say that the frustrating thing was seeing the amazing work that other animators would do, and occasionally an animator would have an awesome idea, and they would animate this hilarious scene. It'd be just so cool to look at, and then the director would say, after we're all been laughing, he'd say, all right, that's funny, but this scene's not supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be kind of sincere, so you have to reanimate it. We'd be like, are you kidding me? That's the most funny thing I've ever... Yeah, it is the most funny. That's the problem. So the frustrating thing is watching artwork that's just amazing get cut out of this film because it's just not right for the movie, which is totally the right call to make. So that's the frustrating thing. I got into animating by first learning from Sean Sullivan, and it seems like if you're here, you at least have some sort of amazing teacher that has brought you here, or at least you're interested on your own, which is awesome. And if you don't have a teacher, look around. There's some, is anybody art, animation, film, or journalist teacher? Everybody swarm him. So having an amazing teacher, and then I went to Cal Arts, which is in Valencia, California, and went there for 4 years and just learned a bunch and learned alongside, like the friends I went to school with went on to create Adventure Time and Regular Show and Gravity Falls. I don't know if you've heard of any of those shows, but those are my buddies I went to school with, made all those shows, so they're just ridiculously talented. All right, guys, thanks so much for coming, and I hope that was insightful. All right, everybody have a good night. Thank you.